Send them up next here. We'll see. Do we have somebody who is interested in ringing the bell? And I thought since spring is here, we should have bellflowers. All right, Lynn, thank you. Okay, thanks, Lynn. Bring to order. Next slide. Welcome. And I thought since we have some new people here today and some new faces, we would go around and do a round of introductions, just who you are and kind of what brought you here today. Today we're going to be talking about this, I believe, and getting a few different perspectives on that. So Colin, do you want to start and introduce yourself?
I'm Colin Lifshitz, freshman at UUSRF. Been coming here for a couple months now.
And I'm Carrie Stotts, and this is my son, Evan Cater.
Very nice. Kate?
Welcome. I'm Kate Igus, and I'm here for community.
All right. Kate?
I'm Kate Jones. I live here in River Falls, and this is where I belong.
It is. It is. Nancy?
Nancy Miller, 25-year member.
Part of the bedrock.
My name's Neil Domeyer. I live in River Falls. Been known 3 years.
I'm Tina Domeyer, and Neil's wife. Same long time. I'm here for community. I'm Ann Cody. I'm here to try to understand what Unitarians do.
All right, and where are you from, Ann?
Hudson.
Hudson, welcome. All right.
America, I live in River Falls and always been a little confused about religion and spirituality, but I'm very curious and doing a lot of research. And then when I look at the website, it's really kind of speaks to me. So I've been here a couple times, but today's speakers are very intriguing to me. I'm looking to learn from them and what's there.
All right. Welcome.
I'm Allison Techmeyer. I am from Woodville, and I used to attend in the cities when I lived there years ago, and I had to go back, so I thought I'd start up again.
Very nice. Welcome. Welcome home.
I'm Emma Miller, with Ella. We live in Spring Valley. We tried the Menominee chapter some months ago. Yes, I'm a recovering Catholic.
You're in the right spot.
Yeah, looking for something that hits my values a little bit higher. This seems to be it.
Very nice.
I'm Maria Rouge. I'm my sister, and I'm also a recovering Catholic. And I'm a little bit more spiritually identified. I just kind of wanted to explore new areas of that. So.
Yeah. Very nice. Welcome. All right. Should we start over here, Bob?
Oh, I'm Bob Hamburger. Bob, current president, soon to be replaced by Allison, thank heaven.
I'm Mary Hamburger, and I am with him.
Anna Brown, Red Wing, Minnesota.
And Anna, you've been a Unitarian forever.
No, since college.
Since college. Okay. Been a part of this organization.
Yeah, for 27 years.
27 years. All right. Jim.
Jim DePeso, River Falls, here for community.
Wendy Peso, also River Falls, and I just like being in a place where all are welcome. So,
Nice. Sue?
Susan Bouchard from New Falls, and I've been off and on a member here for, I just all of a sudden calculated in my head it's longer than 25, 30 years. And I like it here.
I'm Jane Esch. I was raised in the Unitarian Universalist Church, this congregation, and then spent a decade in Catholic Church, and now I'm back here.
I'm Jane's mom, Lynn Hughescamp. So I've been a member about 34 years.
Forever.
And I just, I like a place where the feelings are very
went to the church in where Ted used to talk.
Very good.
Really, Ash, and coming here for a while and always trying to change the world for the better. So this is one of the ways that one of my methods.
And you are changing the world for the better.
Yeah, we hope.
Yep. Barb?
Yeah, I'm Barbara Benson, and visiting here relatives with my husband Jim. And whenever we travel, we always come to the community because we can be ourselves here.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
So my name is Jim Benson, and everything she said, in light of the acceptance of all beliefs that the Unitarians reflect, and she said it, you're allowed to be yourself, and that's very good. You find the good in everyone.
Very good. Welcome.
Ann Lee, River Falls, founding member, 1989. Obviously something mattered to me to keep this going.
Something matters and still does. The fire's still, the chalice is still burning in Anne. And upstairs we have Anne's other half.
Yeah, I'm Ann's other half, and just.
I almost said better half.
I'm not gonna touch that. Like Ann, I'm just trying to keep this wonderful organization going. 35 years, maybe another 35 years.
Yep, no maybe there. All right, Suzanne.
Suzanne Kramer, I'm rural River Falls, and I am a lifelong member of Unitarian Universalist, starting in Minneapolis many years ago.
And your parents were UU as well, correct?
Yes, and my grandparents
Wow.
were liberal thought and went to an interesting group. But anyway, everything that I've heard people say here are why there are reasons for being here, are why I'm here. The community, the acceptance, the thinking of others, helping one another, all those reasons, and wonderful people.
Very nice. Ted Tellefson.
I was lucky to be a minister here for about 10 years. I became a Unitarian Universalist in my freshman year in college, and haven't looked back. So this is a long ride, but it's a very good one. And I bring greetings from Kristen, who's home selling books today.
Very good. All right.
I'm David Page, and I stalk Allison.
There you go. There you go. Mr. Donald.
Steve Dodge, and I found UU in my 40s. Been with this group for several years, and I like the environment where we can learn from each other and coexist.
Very nice. Okay, welcome. Welcome, everybody. So we'll have time after the service for coffee and there's snacks in the kitchen and chat with people where you thought maybe I should connect with that person, I should talk to that person. For those of you who are new to the organization, if you've ever considered joining, every May we have a new member kind of, I won't call it a drive van, right, but a kind of a new member recognition on Sunday, May 4th coming up. So people who are interested in, being an official member, signing on, it doesn't really change a whole lot. It just makes you a part of the email list and a part of the quorum when we vote every year on our budget and our strategic plan and our direction. So if you're interested in that, Anne is the go-to person to collect those names of people. If you're interested in maybe not becoming a member, but you want to be on the email list, you sign in. There's name badges out there, temporary name badges. There's a book next to it. You just sign in with your contact information, your email, and then that just gets you on our weekly email list. You'll get, is it every Thursday?
Yep.
Every Thursday there's a little newsletter goes out that lists the different programs that are coming up and any different activities that we're going to be involved in. So welcome all. Right, next slide. So today what we're doing is called This I Believe. And regularly in the organization, I should introduce myself, I'm Allison Page. We have different members of the organization who share their journey, their spiritual journey. How did you get where you are? And what are your thoughts on spirituality? And how did Today we're going to be highlighting Mr. Emberger, who is our current president, Colin Lifshitz, how to say that last name? Lifshitz, okay, and me. And so we will be getting into that as soon as we're done with the regular parts of the service. So next, who would like to light the chalice? Usually we just love for somebody younger in the organization. It's a real match. You got to be able to light a real match. It's a real match. You got any takers? Okay. All right. Thanks, Jane. Where is? In the drawer. Okay. It's matches. And as Jane writes the chalice, we'll remember that. What does the chalice represent? The chalice is the light of reason, the warmth of community, and the flame of hope. It's a symbol of UUA. Thanks, Jane. Our opening words for the day: come into this place of peace and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power and let its vision change your heart. Thank you to William Schultz for that. Our mission at UUSRF is to nurture our community, to help our children learn, to grow spiritually as we seek wisdom and justice. And we commit ourselves, we the UU of River Falls, commit ourselves in covenant and affirm to the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and lastly, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. UUA International has changed these up a bit and broadened them. We just recently had a conversation with them about maintaining these within our congregation while relating to the larger principles. Yes. Joys and concerns. So at this time, we invite anyone from the congregation to come up to the mic and share anything that you're joyful for or any concerns you have in your life right now. And we do that by putting a stone in the water.
Yesterday, UUSRF was represented at Earth Fest at the university. We had a table, we gave away bird feeders and prairie grass and Chief Seattle quotes and talked to a lot of people. I think we were well represented there, and thanks to Allison and Wendy and Maureen
and Tina.
Yes, thank you for reminding the people who came to help. It was a good way for UUSRF to be present.
Do we know how many people they had in total? Quite large.
They will announce that they did have people with clickers at the doors, so they do keep track of that. Successful event. If you haven't been next year, please go. It's really wonderful.
A really good community event. Really nice. Others?
I chose a stone with varied colors, kind of like our population. Friday night, I attended a potluck. There were between 40 and 50 people there. And in the course of that sharing of food, people also had the opportunity to share with each other what brought them to do the kind of volunteer labor that we've been providing for those who don't have a voice. And so they were able to make new connections, and they started coming up with ideas of other initiatives and other ways that we can also help this community. So it was very enlivening, and it's so hopeful to see people of coming together to support people who are different than they are. So, and, you know, kind of like wrap them in their arms, so to speak. Thank you.
I apologize in advance in case my phone goes off. I don't know how to put it on vibrate. And
We can help you.
my husband is at home. It's kind of heart music, so it's not too far off. But anyway, he's at home convalescing from his 4th and worst hip replacement surgery. And our grandson is with him, who's on the spectrum. So you know, I need to be able to shoot him. But I had a wonderful. I'm thankful for spring, but I'm also thankful having our 12-year-old grandson over last night. As he's going to bed and we talk things over, he asked me if I was a Christian. And I thought, yes, here's the opportunity. I wasn't really ready, but did my best. And his father is a Christian with a big cross that never practices anything. Our daughter's divorced. And says the things but doesn't live that way or do anything Christian-like, in my opinion. And so I know he gets a lot of growth there, and I wanted to talk, so I talked about UU, and he said, well, you're a Christian because you go to church. I said, our church accepts everyone, and that we're talking about sexual persuasion, we're talking about races, creeds, everything. I went into more detail with them. Anybody can go there. And some people are Christians and some aren't. Sorry, I'm taking.
No, it's okay. This sounds like a "This I Believe" in the meeting.
I'm hoping this he'll start thinking about. So anyway, it went very well. Got him to thinking. I didn't want to. He didn't actually ask me again, "Are you a Christian?" Because I answer him always honestly. It was a special moment, a special time to share that and start maybe getting him interested in this world. So I'm thankful for that.
Okay, you just inspired another rock for that career. I had an opportunity this week as well to have those same conversations with someone much older than 12. But it was really nice.
I got together today with a friend. I didn't realize this would be emotional. This friend I worked with at 3M over 25 years ago. And we did not have a good time. But we're on the same page now. And she's become a little bit active. And I'm now thinking about it, coming back. I haven't read anything on the perfluorochemical, or what's also known as forever chemicals, for over 20 years. Just had to get away from it. So it was sweet, but a little bit bitter. The downside is she connected me with 4,000 documents that I could read. So, the rock.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for sharing. Look at that girl grow.
I'm gonna take 2. I'm gonna do one
concern, don't grab the mic, and one joy. Do you want to hold on? So her dad, my partner, lost his job this week, and so there's just some concern in our house about that. So I'm gonna put that in that hopefully.
Oh, she's gonna eat it.
Oh dear, everything works out for the best with that. But the joy is just to be back. I've missed a few weeks, a couple months here, and I've missed all of your faces, and I'm so happy to be back with Maybelline. And I'm so grateful for Nancy Miller because she is godmother and she has been consistently showing up to come see me so I don't feel isolated, helping to babysit this one who is a handful, and I'm just very joyful and filled with gratitude for those things.
What does your husband do for a living?
He was at 3M in soft goods production, so yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, we'll put one last rock in for all the joys and concerns that go unspoken this morning. Right. Next slide. All right, so now we're going to go into this, I believe. And for those of you who have been around for a while, I shared my past kind of spiritual journey a couple years ago. So some of you may have heard parts of this before, but I'm going to do a little summary of that. And what did I do with that book? Left the book out somewhere. Anyway, I'm going to just share a little bit of my story, and then Colin is going to share his journey, and then Bob will share his. Okay. All right, next slide. So we each have a story. You know, why are we here, and how did we arrive here? We all came from someplace, but yet we're here today. And how did we arrive here? And that's what this, I believe, is all about. Next. So this is where I started, on Maple Street in River Falls, Wisconsin. This is my family minus one child. Thank you.
What I do.
And we're going to keep it that way. Maybe I'll go over here. Better? I can't have my back to anybody. So this is the family that I started in. My dad is in the back. That is not my mother on the left at the top. That's my oldest sister. That's Katie Chafee, for those of you who knew Katie. And my mom, maybe my mom was taking the picture, but the last son was not born yet. There were 9 of us. My dad came to town in '53 with my mom to be the doctor in town here in River Falls, one of the doctors in town. I'm number 6 there with the headband behind the little boy with his shoulders up. I was the 6th girl in a row. 6th girl in a row in a family of 9. 6 of 9. I always say I was the last girl before the Christ child was born. When Kevin came, he was pretty special down there in front. But we were very, very, very Catholic. My mother was the 3rd of 8 in a very, very, very Catholic family from northeastern Wisconsin. My father was the youngest of 10 in a very, very Catholic family from southwestern Wisconsin. They met at UW-Madison. My dad was in medical school. My mom worked as a waitress, and she was in the first occupational therapy class ever to be invented at UW-Madison. They met there and proceeded to get married. My mother was, as many, many women in the 40s, she was the ultimate homemaker. And she probably sewed everything that anyone's wearing in that whole picture there. She was the ultimate homemaker. She used to get up on Sunday mornings and ride a bicycle to the early Mass at 6 a.m. Mass, come back. My dad would take all of us to 10 o'clock Mass, and we'd fill up a whole pew, and then we would come home and my mom would have Sunday brunch on. So this was a weekly deal, very Catholic. Grew up in St. Bridget's School, St. Bridget in River Falls. Okay, next slide. Went on from there. This is St. Bridget Elementary. That's me in the middle of the middle row with the, looks like a halo, I'm sure. Yeah, I was a very large child. I was the biggest kid in my class till 6th grade. And my mother tells everyone that all the girls wore the same dress until she got to me. We had to make a new one to accommodate my body, my very powerful body, yes. So next slide. So St. Bridget. This is graduating from Marquette University in Milwaukee. I originally went to Madison and then transferred to Marquette after 1 year. David and I got married when I was 19. He was 21, just getting out of college. And I tell people that I got married very, very young, not because I was pregnant. It was far, far worse. I was very much in love. So, went to Marquette. I would not have selected to go to a Catholic college, but I landed there. And was a very interesting experience, and it was the experience that really shaped my spiritual beliefs. When you go to Marquette, it's run by the Jesuits, so it's a more liberal Catholic experience. It was really excellent in hindsight when you go to when you have an experience like that, a liberal arts kind of experience. I majored in nursing because in my family that was an appropriate job for a woman, nursing or teaching or something where you could be available to your family, of course. And but at Marquette you had to take 2 years of sociology and anthropology and 2 years of religion classes. Before your graduation, you had to have a one-on-one with one of the Jesuits and really talk through your spiritual beliefs. And I remember sitting in that conversation, didn't know I was pregnant. I was so nervous, sitting in this office with this Jesuit priest, and him asking me, like, what is good? What is good? What do you think good is? What do you believe? Really putting you to it. And I fainted. Passed out. I was pregnant. And I think that he thought it was some kind of religious experience because he went real easy on me after that. But as I told him that day, I said, I think what has happened here is studying religions of the world and studying the beliefs of many people around the world has really brought me to the realization that I'm maybe not a Catholic. I'm maybe not a Catholic. I love Buddhism, Hinduism. I love Judaism. I think it's a great religion. There's so many good ways of thinking out there that I didn't find myself drawn to just this one way of thinking. So graduated from Marquette. Oh, that's me second from the right. Next slide. So what is religion? So how do you define religion? So religion is a range, if you look up a definition of religion, it's a range of social, cultural systems, including designated behaviors and practices, morals, beliefs, worldviews, texts, sanctified places, prophecies, ethics, or organizations that generally relate humanity to supernatural, transcendental, and spiritual elements. Although there's no scholarly consensus over what precisely constitutes a religion, different religions may or may not contain various elements ranging from the divine, sacredness, faith, and supernatural being or beings. Next. So how do we define religion? David's going to like this one. My definition is a way of understanding life. When you create, like, what is my religion? It's, well, how do I understand life? Well, how do I understand the meaning of life? And I love this from John. How do you say this? For John, chapter 1. First John, first book of John. Chapter, yeah. Say that again.
1 John, verse 4, chapter 16.
Chapter 4, verse 16.
Chapter 4, verse 16. Okay, yep, I don't want to get it wrong. Even though we spent a lot of time in the Bible at St. Bridget. So I love this from the Bible. God is love, and he who dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him. And since then, this has always stuck with me of the Bible, of, if God is love, if we don't define God or describe God in any human terms, what is God? What is God? And I believe that God is love. Next. So God, I define God as the collective force of goodness created by all who have or inhabit our planet. All who have inhabited our planet, past tense. That God is love. So everyone who has come before us and everyone who is here now, all the behaviors that we incorporate that exude love and spread love, that adds to the aura of love, which is God. So when you come down to religions and, are you a Christian, aren't you a Christian, at the end of the day, it all boils down to how do you define God? And how do you define the quote-unquote afterlife, or what happens to us when we die? And then, so what is death? And is there a heaven? Well, death is death in my book. Death is death. But what about heaven? Well, I do believe that I define heaven as that heaven is the positive future that results from the impact you have had on the collective force of goodness that surrounds and supports everyone. So how have you contributed to the aura of goodness that surrounds us all? And that is your heaven. That is your heaven. This force or web connects us to all who have come before us, to all with whom we share this time on earth, and to those who will come after us. I believe that when we die, we are gone, but the love we have shared during our time on this big blue ball never dies, because God is love, and we are God. Next. So I'm not going to read this. Last time we met, I did read this, but if anyone wants to take a look at this book, it's written for children. It's called The Invisible Web, and I know after I spoke before, some people did purchase it. It's a great story about when I'm not here anymore. It's written to your grandchildren. When I'm not here anymore, where am I? Well, I'm a part of the web, the invisible web. Next. And with that, I'm going to end. I think what we'll do is we will have Colin share his story, and then we'll have Bob share his story, and then maybe open it up for dialogue after that. Sound good? All right, come on up, Colin.
I think there's a song I want to play first. So I don't know if you put on the slide or not.
Yep.
Move up home.
Where'd it go?
favorite part of every service back when I was in Arizona was we would always start it with singing together as a community. I love that. Thank you. I'm Colin Lifshitz. I've been going here for a few months, so relatively new here. I'd like to start by saying our covenant from our UU congregation in Phoenix. Every morning we'd start service with this. We'd say, love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to share our strength and fellowship, thus do we covenant. So, both my parents grew up religious. My mom was Catholic and my dad grew up Jewish. We like to say that our family is a bunch of cashews, and we combine two words. Even before they got married, over 25 years ago, they both had quarrels with what they were told they should believe from their respective religions. I think the last straw for them in deciding what religion we would grow up as, my dad's parents almost wouldn't let them get married if my mom didn't convert to Judaism. And I think that sort of thing it totally turned them off of that sort of religion. I mean, overall, it definitely backfired for my grandparents because now neither of them are Jewish. So. Our family moved to Kentucky when I was about 1.5 years old. So, I mean, I was told we attended the UU congregation in Lexington, but I really couldn't tell you anything about it. I was too young to remember anything. But when I was 6, we moved to Phoenix, and we attended the UUCP, Unitarian Universalism congregation in Phoenix. I feel like I've told many of you about the experiences I had there and how much I loved it, but I mean, when I first got there, I absolutely hated going there. I mean, I saw it as something more I just had to do. I saw it as like school. I just didn't enjoy it. I would rather just be doing watching TV, doing whatever it was, sleeping in, just anything else besides going there. My mindset really started to change when I started to just think, I mean, well, if I'm forced to go there, I might as well get something from it, just as a way of just getting through it. I really changed. I actually started thinking like it when we started a new program called Coming of Age. It's very similar to a bar mitzvah or quinceañera, except it's over an entire summer for many teenagers, basically, like preteens. In this program, we'd go to different religious locations like mosques, temples, or churches. We'd listen to a variety of different services to discover what we personally believe and set us up for a lifetime of personal and spiritual growth. The culmination of this program was the Coming of Age group leading a service for the entire congregation at the end of the summer to present to the congregation what we as individuals now believed in any way we wanted to. This was called our credo. I found my credo from 6 years ago. And 6 years ago, I believed in believing in yourself. Before each one of my peers would go to present their credos, I would stand up, I'd give them a hug, and I'd tell them that everything would be okay, and just to believe in themselves as a way of demonstrating believing in yourself and how much I believed in that. Since then, I've grown a lot as a person, and my beliefs have grown with me. But the thing that stayed constant was how much I learned, and how much I learned to be able to grow from coming of age. Nearing the end of my I hate going to service phase, my family learned about a summer camp that was hosted at my congregation called Kids Camp. Kids Camp was technically non-denominational, but we kind of just snuck some Unitarian Universalism values in there anyway. Since then, I've worked at Kids Camp for the past 5 summers. I worked as a counselor for the first few years, and then I worked as a science teacher this past summer. Throughout my time working there, and during my high school years, I've changed so much, and my beliefs have changed with me. In my teenage years, I put myself out there more than I ever have. I think anyone should. It was scary. I went to high school after graduating middle school in the middle of a pandemic. I joined wrestling, which was like probably the hardest thing I've ever done. I pushed myself academically and I found my passion in chemistry. I found my calling on the football team, which I came here to River Falls to do. And I left all the friends that I knew growing up, that I grew up with, to go to a college in a state I've barely ever been before since visiting here. It's scary. But there's one factor in all of these experiences that made it so much easier. Community. I believe so much in community. I see the effects everywhere now, and I saw them growing up. Community can help you in academics. You can study with friends, and it just makes it a lot easier and less boring. In football, community is vital to be at all successful. You need all 11 people on the field to do the exact thing that they're supposed to. Everyone needs it. In wrestling, it's harder to see, but the effect of community is there. Every coach, every teammate, every family member cheering you on in the crowd has such a big impact on how well you perform and how big of a job you have. During coming of age, every person going through the program gets a mentor that volunteers from the congregation to guide kids through their spiritual journey. Without a community, this is impossible. I was so lucky to have such a great mentor that came and volunteered and helped me so much to find myself and my spiritual beliefs. The phrase, "it takes a village," is so literal right now, and I couldn't be more happy for it. I spent my freshman year of high school essentially socially alone from kids my age. Because I was such a socially anxious middle schooler, I didn't have that many close friends that I felt like reaching out to. It just wasn't worth the risk during a pandemic. Because of this, I know what it feels like to lose a piece of your community and a piece of just to lose a part of community. And because of this, I valued community and believe in community more than I ever have in my life. I feel community more than ever here at River Falls. From the amazing family I've come to know on the football team and the welcoming arms I felt coming here, just on a random Sunday in September, I feel so welcome and included here. I wanted to include today that I realized my beliefs are more similar today than I previously thought 6 years ago. I even just sitting here before service today, I was just kind of anxiously waiting to speak. But I've had a couple people come up to me and say, "You're gonna do great." And it makes such a big effect. And just every time someone would say that, it just like a weight lifted off my shoulders. And it was really amazing to see. And that's the exact same thing I did with my peers in my coming of age credo presentation. And I just feel community while doing that. It's really amazing to be here. It truly is, because the things I believe are so well represented here. And that's something you can't take for granted. Because from my parents growing up to places where didn't know they were allowed to believe other things, to coming here where I don't have to be told what I believe, but it's still here. I still see everything I believe, truly. And that's an amazing thing. I wanted to end this with a verse from the same song I started off with. My favorite hymn that I've ever heard, that I've come to love over years of coming to UUCP, and probably the one that's helped guide me most on my journey. Drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the light of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. Thank you all.
Need an introduction? Bob needs no introduction. Did you want to play the song first, Bob?
Age of Aquarius.
Tell
Okay, I guess you've got the idea. Tough acts to follow. I believe that we are now in the greatest transformation of human consciousness that has ever occurred. And this change causes turmoil. You might have noticed a certain amount of turmoil around you. We often feel a sense of fear, anger, and frustration as we experience the demolition of time-honored institutions that we have treasured in the past. We may have a feeling of helplessness and a sense of separation. Those of us who survive this demolition can and will participate in the co-creation and rebuilding of a more benevolent, equitable, and compassionate world around us. Some of us have referred to this change as simply the shift, a shift in awareness, a shift towards greater multidimensional perception. Others have described it in astrological terms as the coming of the age of Aquarius. Well, if you're like me, this idea of Aquarius sounds pretty good. Harmony, understanding, peace, love. Well,
come on now, I'm all in. Where is it? Show me the love. Well, it's coming. I believe it's coming, and it's creeping up on us right now, even as I speak. However, I also believe that we will have about 3 to 5 more years of harm, of distress, and chaos. And even Mother Earth is participating in this change. We see climate change, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and obviously floods and hurricanes, tornadoes. And we will see more from the dark energies at work in our government. They are using fear to separate us from ourselves and our divine selves, our divine intuition. But how can we cope? How can we heal? How can we cope with this? I believe that we have the answer right here in our UU organization. We stand together after every service and we say 9 affirmations. Among those, go out into the world in peace. Well, obviously, if we want peace, in our world, we're going to have peace in our hearts. Love, joy, and peace. We say have courage. We will need courage. And I believe we also say question all things. I believe that is the first step in spiritual growth. Hold on to what is good. Well, if you question all things, ask a heartfelt question and get an answer that seems to work for you, it seems prudent to hold on to that, try it out in your life, in your day. See how that works. We say, return to no person for evil. That's very basic. And we say 3 things that help us to support one another. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. We may all need help from one another as the time goes by. And lastly, honor all beings. I believe this is important that we honor each other's spiritual search, no matter if our beliefs are changed or different. We need to honor where we're at. There are many resources available to us in this spiritual journey. I believe we can participate in our growth by doing a variety of activities which are welcome here at UU. I have recently started journaling. I sit down every morning with pen in hand and take a few deep breaths and ask questions for guidance. I believe that heart energy is the currency of the new age, and so I write down what comes to mind, usually 3 or 4 sentences, and then I reread it to see if I can apply that during the day. My wife Mary has a different approach. She just sits down and asks a few questions and asks for guidance. Not from me, you understand. We have had that discussion about 50 years ago and have never gone back to it since. But she sits down, takes a few deep breaths, asks for guidance, and she believes she gets this from what she now terms universal wisdom. In the past, Mary thought she was getting guidance from a particular entity. And so we talked about that, and we wondered if perhaps that was a guardian angel. Being ex-Catholics, Mary and I have no difficulty believing in guardian angels. But anyway, one time Mary was pulled up to a stoplight here in town, was waiting for it to change. She was thinking about the guidance that she had received, and she asked the question, "What is your name?" Immediately the reply came back, "Bert." Well, guardian angel Bert, who knew? I don't believe it matters from whence cometh your guidance, whether it's your own intuition, your guardian angels, maybe Archangel Michael, or Bert. If the answers work for you in your life, hold on to them. There are many sources of guidance. A few months ago, our good friend Paula Luger shared with us a website that she referred to often, that of Suzanne Giesman. Now, Suzanne Giesman offers poetry, a daily prayer, guided meditations, and some channeled messages. And recently, Nancy Miller shared with us the fact that she was browsing the internet and bumped into a website where Deepak Chopra was being interviewed. And she mentioned that she obtained a few good bits of advice from Deepak Chopra. We are lucky here at UU in that many diverse guides are welcome. We have members who obtain guidance from Buddhist teachings, from biblical, from the Bible, the Christian Bible, from meditation, and many feel that they grow from spiritually from charitable works. We are fortunate also to have people, we had members in the past who believed in sacred drumming and practiced shaman ceremonies. I believe that in this turmoil of this transformation, each of us can take charge of his or her own spiritual evolution by search and growth in any way that fulfills them personally. This transformation is about who we are and who we become together. We need to connect with each other and ourselves. Have I mentioned this in the past? Connecting with each other and ourselves? And in particular, we will be aided by questioning all things, by holding on to what is good, and honoring all beings. My first questioning, as I recall years ago, was related to the Lord's Prayer. I wasn't too happy with the idea of saying, "Our Father who art in heaven," so I just changed it without consulting the Pope. And now when I say the prayer, I say, "Our Father, Mother God, who is with us always." That kind of fits with my personal beliefs. This reminds me of the story about young Charlie. 6-year-old Charlie at the end of the summer was going to Sunday school for the first time. So when the family went into the service, Charlie went into the Sunday school class, and the family went into with the rest of the congregation. During the service, the pastor mentioned to the congregation that the young children would be reciting the Lord's Prayer together. And so after the service, going home, Mom turned to Charlie and said, "Well, Charlie, how did you like Sunday school?" And Charlie said, "Well, I liked it fine. We played games, and I learned God's name." And Mom said, "Well, you learned God's name? What is God's name?" And Charlie said, "Harold." And Mom said, "How did you know it's Harold?" Charlie said, "Well, that's what we said. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." So you see, Charlie, on his path of spiritual growth, had more to learn. And when he shared with those who honored his spiritual growth, he learned even more. And so can we all. Together, I don't have a computer here, so I have to read it. Together, we can take charge. We can take this opportunity to take charge of our spiritual growth and to co-create a better world that we want to live in. We can keep peace, joy, understanding, harmony, and love in our hearts and in the world around us. Together, we can make it through. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Bob, and thanks, Colin. And for all you recovering Catholics out there, I would give you one other bit of advice. The last part of the conversation with the Jesuit that I had at Marquette in Milwaukee, it was a very supportive environment, and he said that's as it should be. You should go forward with your spiritual journey. If you think there are other ideas out there, you absolutely should explore them. But he said, always remember this. And it's funny how things you hear when you're 20, they don't really have value to you until maybe you're 40. I don't know, you know, because I didn't appreciate my experience at Marquette. I always kind of regretted not going to UW-Madison or finishing there. But as the older I get, the more I've grown to appreciate what I learned there. And he said, you know, go forth and do your spiritual journey, but you can never deny, nor can you shed what you've learned in your Catholic experience. It's always a part of the fiber of who you are. And it very much is. It very much is. The things that I learned when I was at St. Bridget, I wanted to be a nun when I grew up. I was going to join the convent. And I loved Catholicism, loved the church. And I still do. Care for the Catholic Church and what's going on there. But it doesn't sit right. And the reason I ended up selecting this organization, I can remember back when this organization met in the basement of the Durant Federal Building, and then the little blue building over there, and at one point you were asked to go around and say, wait, why are you here? Why UU? Why are you at UU? And I can my only comment was that I wanted to be a part of an organization, spiritual organization that challenged me to think instead of just simply telling me what to think. And that's what I love about UU is being the comfort level with the ambiguity of we don't know. We're on a journey. We're on the big blue boat. And so thank you. I would open it up for any comments or questions. I know we're a little bit over, but people have questions or comments for Bob or Colin? Mr. Page.
I was raised in the Congregational Church here in River Falls, United Church of Christ. And I don't remember how many questions were in that official catechism we did in 9th grade when I was 13, but it's still in my files in my office at home. And question number 1 in the catechism was religion. And I can guarantee you the verbatim answer was religion is a way of understanding life.
Right.
Which really appealed to me. And that was 60 years ago now. And I haven't peeked at that catechism that often. I don't know how many questions were in there. Question number 2 was, what is worship? In the United Church of Christ in 1969, worship was a way of celebrating religion. And 13-year-old me thought, hey, worship is a way of celebrating your way of understanding life. And that is obviously always stuck in my memory. And I think it's very appropriate, maybe especially here.
Yeah. I like Colin, I like from your church in Phoenix, your affirmation. You're excellent. Really beautiful. Other comments? Questions?
I want to know if Bob still has his plaid bell bottoms.
I'm sure you do. David never throws away anything. All right. Okay. With that, we don't pass a basket for offertory. We always have a basket in the back. People who want to make a contribution, feel free to. People can donate online as well. Do as you will. Next slide. There we go. Announcements. Programs coming up on May 4th, On the Edge of Eternity with Reverend J. Ludwig. Would anyone like to say anything about that? Anything additional? It's in the newsletter. If you get the newsletter, you can read more about it there. And that, as I mentioned earlier, is also going to be new member welcoming for the year. On May 11th, we are going to have Ellen Esch with us, who is related to Jane and Lynn. What?
Yeah, she's related.
She's related, very tightly. Green space and environmental justice, so that will be very interesting. And then on May 18th, we'll have the annual meeting where we will review our strategic plan, talk about the things we've gotten, things we've done this year, talk through our budget, elect new board members, and so that will be an important day. It is important that we have a quorum at that meeting, so people who are official members really encourage you to attend or vote absentee. Right, Don?
Yes,
And vote absentee. We need to have a quorum vote for the appointment to the board of directors. And there is another activity. If you watch the we'll put it in the newsletter, but the Congregational Church is sponsoring an event coming up real soon here.
It's on Thursday. It's in the newsletter.
This Thursday. It Okay, should be excellent. Anne, go ahead.
The garden is gonna happen. Any gardeners, anybody interested in playing with the soil, talk to me because it's time to start.
And what do we know about the greenhouse? Anything?
It's coming the middle of May,
Okay.
and then the Kinney River Land Trust is wondering if we want, how many kits that we want from their grant, and it's for individuals with disabilities as well as one of their grants is for seniors to help plant prairie grass or prairie plants, and then another one is other plants. The prairie plants go to the Kinney River Land Trust to start growing and preserving the prairie around the river, and then the other ones are plants that you can take home, typically flowers. So Kinney River Land Trust has kits, and they want to know how many specifically that we would like. I said maybe 8. So if you want particular being part of this project, please let us know, and I will. If we need more than 8, I will let them know that.
Yeah.
But the greenhouse will, and Don can say that it's going to be out here, but it's going to be permanent now. So please, if you have any opinions on where to place it, I know Don and I would like to hear about that because it is going to be delivered by a truck, and the ground has to be leveled, and so where it's placed is where it's going to be.
Okay.
Okay?
So, yeah, there are 4 stakes out there as a possible location. So
Okay.
everybody take a look out by the garden.
Yeah. So this is an exciting project that'll help the Land Trust and help this organization and its members. Okay. Other announcements? Anything else? All right. Next slide. Okay, we have our closing words, and then I did include some music for after, but if you, we all gather in a circle and hold hands and say our closing words. But Don, if you want to come down, we can skip the music at the end.
Or we can just stay up here.
Okay, all right. And then please join us for coffee and treats in the kitchen. All right, ready? Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Question all things. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. Okay, Daddy might be outside. Should we go see?